I made my own Empire Season 3 designs for Empire's October because I like none of the prompt lists and I'm insane. I have 3, maybe 4 rules I do for the challenge. Number 1, no repeat themes, so like no more witches, no more wizards. You can't just be that. That can't just be your theme. You need more than that. Number 2, I need to be able to attach an export. It can't just be the design. No, it also has to lead into what their export might be or what their building theme might be. One of the two. And number 3, these have to be able to be translated into skin designs. That's it. Those are the rules. First up is everybody's. I want to say I can't think of something that he's like everybody's favorite at. So Scott Major. I decided, because I saw a lot of people recently draw Scott as a unicorn, to make him a unicorn. He is the king of an empire in the sky amongst pink clouds, and he, as a unicorn, is pretty fucking rare. And he's never been told no in his entire life because of that. So he's pretty entitled. He thinks he can do anything because he's rare and he's powerful and he's the king. And when his parents kind of realized, shit, we've spoiled this one, let's make his twin, I guess, I don't know, the ruler, because he'd be a better ruler. He's kind of compassionate despite him not being like rare or chosen particularly. He was fit to rule. And so, naturally, Scott didn't want that. He felt entitled to the throne. It was his birthright because he was rare and he was powerful and he was special. So he did the logical thing. He killed his parents and he banished his brother away. Yeah, no, this is just an inverse of This Is in One storyline. I don't know, it just happened that way. Look at this man's smug face and tell me he wouldn't. Like, I dare you to try and do it. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, no, I'm right. Now there's the flower husband's side of this story, which I won't go more in depth. I'll go more in depth to it when we get to Jimmy, because it's more Jimmy-centric this time. Damn, I've done shit. I have done some shit. But just in general, know that Scott remembers Third Life, he remembers all the Empires beforehand, and he doesn't like that in Season 2, Jimmy didn't. Like, it just didn't happen. And so, seeing Jimmy as kind of this trophy, this thing to have, you can guess the rest. His export are enchanted books, and maybe blaze powder. Maybe that could be renamed to like unicorn dust or whatever the fuck. But yeah, just enchanted books, that sort of stuff. And his theme is very like pink clouds, pastel, pretty colors, like stained glass sort of vibes. You can see from the images that I used as like a reference for both the colors and the vibes. That's kind of what we're going for here. Also, if I didn't make it obvious enough, he's the villain of the season. He knows he's the villain. He doesn't care. Now for Shubble, I landed on the theme of her being a moth goddess after a suggestion from one of my friends, Emmy, over on Tumblr, that somebody should be like a god and then somebody else should be a fallen angel. Now, that didn't really get kept to its truest form, but that kind of inspired me to make Shubble a goddess-like, at the very least, figure. Technically, her title would be a celestial because Gem didn't do shit with that, and I just think it would be neat. Shubble is the celestial of light and warmth. Her export would be the frog lights, like lanterns, maybe campfires, no, like stuff you can light with, because she is a moth. And I just think that's cool. And specifically, she is based on a gold swift moth because it matched her palette and it just looked neat. So that's the moth type that I ended up going with. Admittedly, I don't have a lot on what her backstory or story would be, or at least start out as. I think she wouldn't be as evolved in the affairs of the mortal, so to speak. Her design is simple, it is elegant, that sort of stuff. I didn't really know what to do with her outfit because I knew her colors would end up being like golds and stuff like that, and I didn't want to overcrowd the design with details, so that's why her design is like less than most of the other designs I'd reckon, because like everybody else that I've designed so far, with the exception of Catherine, has really detailed designs. Catherine is the exception because her detail also comes in her colors because of what Catherine is. And speaking of Catherine, Catherine is the aforementioned fallen angel. At least that's what she claims. She's actually a watcher-listener hybrid. I'm not quite sure how that came to be, but it did, and that's what she is. Because in my AUs and stuff, the listeners are always the LA, so they have this bright teal coloring. That's why her design had to be simple, because it is a bright, strong teal with a dark purple. There's a little gold thrown in there just for the accent, because did not want that shit to be white, because then it would be too bright. It wouldn't look good, is my point. So yeah, her design had to be simple because her colors I kind of knew would be out of control. So yeah, she has a secret to keep. Some people might argue that that is a bit repetitive because in season 2 she had technically to know the fact that she was cursed. That was a bit of a secret. It was like an open secret. And then you had the fact that she was a monster hunter, which is a full-on secret until she revealed it to a couple of people who don't remember who specifically, but I do know that it happened. But I feel like it should, if you keep a secret, a big secret, like the Monster Hunter thing, it should have some amount of payoff, and it should be kind of story relevant. So yeah, she has quite a big secret this season. Her export would be, I don't think, not nether stuff, but it would be soul lanterns, soul sand, soul soil, soul speed, anything that has to do with soul sand or is kind of under that family would kind of be her export. She'd also probably be proficient in soul type magic, so the cleansing of souls. She might be able to look into different people's past. It really just kind of depends what elements of watchers and listeners I want to kind of blend in there for her. It's kind of why she ended up lying that she's an angel with her wings and her I'd imagine the broken halo around her neck, which I forgot to draw on this piece because I had more important stuff to be doing. God, those hands and that lighting. Anyway, so that would be why she lied about being an angel, just kind of fit with her powers, and it was relatively easy to get away with. Because most people would not be happy to know that a watcher is amongst their ranks, and I don't think saying that she's a listener would quite work with all that purple. Building theme and style is just classic Catherine, just we can't have the pink this season. you kinda have to switch it out for the purple and the blue together. It kind of is what it is at that point. Now, Lizzie, in comparison, is pretty simple. I just gave her the gunpowder and TNT export and just threw in the Kingdom Craft version of Lizzie because Kingdom Craft is one of my favorite SMPs ever. It is, as I've said before numerous fucking times, at least to me, the precursor to Empires, and I wanted to pay homage to that. She likes to blow shit up. Think of it like a season 1 flip, but instead of going from like chaotic neutral to chaotic good, she goes to chaotic evil and ends up teaming up with Scott because I'd feel like, because Empire Season 1 was a relatively peaceful time for her, but ever since then you got specifically Double Life and Secret Life, which she remembers, and those were not good times for our little Lizzie. That and not really being able to play on New Life, which I'd imagine for like a player entity would be torturous, agonizing, because specifically I remember she couldn't play because of the lag and like the ping on the server was just like way too high for her to comfortably play. If I'm remembering my little facts, behind the scenes facts correctly. And I feel like that'd be some pretty agonizing bodily pain when you translate it. So yeah, she's gone mad. She just wants to relive the glory of Empires Season 1 and will do anything to get it. Doesn't matter what the cost is, it doesn't matter what gets blown up in the process. The only thing that matters is her happy ending. At least to her. Everybody else be damned. Now, with all that, I just kind of feel the need to make it clear right now that I know that most likely this would never be able to be made into a season of Empires as we know Empires. Because it's just not feasible in Minecraft. There's not... How do you possibly coordinate this many people for what would be a pretty complex story? You really can't, not without a lot of effort and a lot of planning, which Empires isn't really known for. Most SMPs are not really known for that, so I know this is not a realistic thing, but it wasn't trying to be. I was just having fun making designs. Like, originally it was just gonna be the designs, no story whatsoever, but when I draw, I tend to add stories and like, oh, why is this thing there? Why is this like this? So yeah, this is what I ended up with. My only actual requirement for this to be able to be turned into a real thing, quote unquote, were the skins, which I think that I could at least turn into skins, and if I can turn them into skins, somebody who is not that skilled in making skins, I'm sure that the people who are in charge of making, the YouTube skins would knock it out of the park. They've done more complex stuff. Like, Enigma Lizzie is like more complex than most of the skins, maybe not Scott. Anyway, my point is, I know this is not realistic. I know this would take way too much effort than what it would be worth, but it wasn't meant to be that. So, you'll enjoy this. I'm gonna get to the rest. Now I'm gonna be 3 days behind on Empire Silver, but it happens. I need to get better at time management. Besides the fucking point. So yeah, if you want to make your own interpretations of the concepts I've given here, or your own hypothetical Season 3, be my guest. If you want to see the new designs and illustrations as they are, being done and released, follow my Tumblr account, because that's where I post this. And with all that out of the way, have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you, and remember, stay safe.